Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Powerful on Purpose podcast, where we talk to amazing women who are sharing their stories to build businesses, change the world, expand their mission and their impact. So excited. And really, I am delighted to bring you today's guest. We should have been recording before the episode because we had a full conversation then, right? And we're so aligned. We got to wait. We got to record this stuff. So today's guest is Laura Miola, and she is an executive coach and business strategy consultant who works with female executives, entrepreneurs, and business owners to show up, stand up, and lead with what matters. And at the end of the day, I'm all about that's what we as women need to do is stand up, show up, and then decide what matters to us and really go for that. So welcome, Laura. Super excited to have you here.
Thank you, Leslie. I'm so excited to be here and I appreciate your invitation.
Absolutely. Well, I love your content and what you're doing with women. Just so excited to have this conversation. Why I always like to start with what led you to do what you're doing.
My clients are just like me in that I went down the corporate route, started out, I'm going to date myself in the 90s, in thought leadership and consulting, management consulting, the whole, down that road, business development. And I had imposter syndrome 1,000%. And it's been a long road to sort of leave that corporate identity behind because we think like this is the mission, but that's a mission that's been defined for us. And we think if we just work harder, we're going to find our place there. And I never did. No matter, what my title was, how successful I was, I didn't feel the way I wanted to feel about myself. I still felt like I'm performing and then I have to jump through those hoops, but those hoops didn't mean anything to me personally. And that's a huge problem. So I work with a lot of women who are carving out their own identities from, the corporate wonderland, which doesn't make any sense, to make sense for themselves because that's what they're going to know. That's what's going to matter. Either carve out that space in corporate or leave and do what they really want to do.
Right. Wow. So
Because
powerful.
you only get one shot.
Isn't that true, right? One shot that we know of. Like whatever happens beyond happens beyond. But this is where we're at. So many juicy ideas in there. I love this fact of identities because I think it's also tied up in stories, right? Stories that we tell ourselves. And once we create that identity, like we're really attached to it. And our brain is attached to it. Because you mentioned you work with neuroscience as well. And
Yep,
we would
that's
love to
right.
hear how that comes in. Then letting go of that identity. Like, oh, it's a struggle, right? Because I've worked so hard to get here. I don't want to go backwards.
And there is no backwards, right? But there's also not a linear line. Everyone thinks it's like a straight line from A to B, but it's a spiral. We're learning as we go. We're still evolving if we choose to make those experiences valuable. And again, so many of my clients are doing all the right things. We're playing by the rules, but we're playing in a system that still doesn't value. They value our work, but now we're tied to what's a commodity and our true value isn't being recognized. Now, there's no outside way to change that. It really comes from the inside out to say, I am valuable. I know where my value is. I'm defining it for myself. This is what matters to me. I'm going to choose and make decisions from that place. And now wherever you are, you're leading you.
Right.
And that's how we model it for other women.
Ooh, that's really powerful. And that is one of the harder things to do, right? Is come back, do the inner work and be the CEO of your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I first became a coach and had a coach, and my coach asked me, who are you? And I was still in my corporate career as a VP business development, traveling all over the world, blah, blah, blah. And it took me not even 30 seconds to say, I'm wearing a beautiful tailored black suit. I've got 4-inch heels on. I look powerful. I look great. What nobody knows is that that suit is entirely made of paper. And every movement I make, it's giving me tiny paper cuts all over my body. And I'm petrified. I'm going to sweat through it or it's going to rain and I'm going to be left naked. And I'm leaving a trail of blood behind me in those shoes. That's what I felt like.
Right? I got chills hearing that. I think there are so many situations, right? Where, and it doesn't even have to be the tailored suit, where women feel that the clothing I'm wearing is cutting me alive, right? Killing me in many instances, and I don't know what to do about that.
because we're doing all the right things,
Right.
but they're not the right things for us.
Sure.
So I used to wear hustle like a badge of honor on my sleeve. I could, get it done, right?
Right.
Hustle, shrink, wait, please. Those are the modern day versions of fight, flight, freeze, fawn. We are in a stress response because it is not built for us. And so now you can have as much intention as you want, but your body is biologically reinforcing that threat response with hormones, cortisol, and adrenaline. So you can't just think your way out of this. And that's where the neuroscience comes in because we can regulate our own nervous system to change that hormonal balance to support the change we want.
Right. Awesome.
And that's my methodology. That's
Right.
what I think is really important. And I think that I know that because, I came out of my corporate career. I was incredibly stressed. I had went through a divorce and then I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and started really understanding that stress response and how it was affecting me personally. And I've taken all these neuroscience principles that's really underneath all coaching methodology, applied it to my own life, and I've been in full remission since 2016.
Kudos. Good for you. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. So it's really personally meaningful to me that this is what happens when we are working in systems. And again, we're doing all the right things, but they're not. And so it takes a sort of that separate observer sounding board. We talked about, superpowers. And I think my superpower is to be able to see patterns and possibilities.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
what I love to do.
And that's a very valuable trait. And I also love that you brought up this idea of the hustle is really showing up in women in illnesses, right? I mean, women have what I think are they're predominantly with MS, rheumatoid
Immune.
arthritis. Yeah, autoimmune diseases are, I was going to say, not even silently, but
Nope.
squashing women even more. And we talked about pre-show too, the world being built not for women, right? And what leads to that hustle and grind is us trying to fit in that system not built for us.
And what's so terrible and ironic is that, my clients are in the C suite and they feel alone.
Right.
It is such a lonely place to be because, and I wrote an article about this, you can go celebrate holidays with your family and they see you the way you used to be. They don't see who you are in the C suite. They don't understand it. They don't get it. They can't talk to you about it. And yet here you are, the only woman in the C suite. So you can't talk to anybody else because it doesn't feel safe enough. So it's just a very lonely, lonely place to be. And that's what we call success.
I was going to say, right, that's the pinnacle. That's what you worked put in all this effort for. And then you get there like, wait a minute. Yeah.
Right. And then you're still just going through the motions. I like to think of it as I was telling a friend about this. So many of my clients, they'll leave like a 30-year corporate career and just be like it's like when you come blinking out of a movie theater into the bright sunshine, you're like, where am I? Right? You're so disoriented and you still got the movie in your head and you're like, what? It's just like that. They just don't know what is next.
Sure.
And
Well,
so
and that stripping down of identity, what I thought I wanted, who I am, who people have told me I am, right? What a jumble.
right. And what you're rewarded for. And everyone thinks it's about if I just do, but you're leaving who you are behind. And I think in our attention economy, you need to bring you up, turn up the volume on that. Let's be outrageous. Let's show people who we are and show people what matters to us and lead with that because that's a safe place to be in that you define for yourself.
Absolutely. And those people are there, right? I think that's the other thing. Everybody's like scared. If I stand out, then I'm going to repel, which I say that's just as powerful as attracting, right?
Absolutely.
But the people that are attracted will come to you.
I have a t-shirt that says I'm not for everyone because I'm for the people I'm for. And when I talk about what matters to me, those people raise their hand and say, yeah, that matters to me too. That's our connection. That's what I want to build in this world.
Yeah. And we definitely need more of that, right? And you shared a astonishing statistic before the show about women in business.
Yeah. So I think it used to be almost 11 or 12% women as CEOs in major corporations. It's declining. It's now 9%. So for all our hustle, for all our hard work, for all our proving our value, we're actually not moving women's causes forward because it's not about how hard we work. And actually, if you think about it, and I hate this with the gender wage gap, which is still like just for white women, 16 cents. If you retroactively just bring 16 cents, don't even like adjust it for time over a 45-year career, that's almost $2 million that we've
Oh,
earned that we don't get.
right,
But all our hard work, if they're not paying us, corporations are making money off that. We fuel the economy and we're the ones who are getting paid for it because we're not saying this is unacceptable.
right, right. Like, I'm sure no one has an answer to that, but what do you see would need to change that?
I think it comes from every single woman saying, this is who I am. This is what I care about. I think the hardest question to answer when I ask clients this, who are you? And that makes sense because we don't think about those things. But an even harder question to answer is, what do you want? What do you want? Like,
Right.
and so many women don't feel that they can want.
Permission. Yes. And permission to want something that maybe is not acceptable to want. Right. Or maybe even is, but it's just that permission piece.
Right. That and the science says we co-create our own reality. We are in relation with our environment all the time. We don't need to have it tell us who we are and what we're going to do. We can actually take the lead in that dance. And it doesn't mean you have to blow up your life and blow up your corporate career. It means that you have your own strategy for how you want to navigate through your career path so it serves you and not just them. That's what I do with my clients is how are we going to navigate for you so you're getting what you want inside the system. We all know it's the matrix.
That's right. We got to play. Yeah. Got to figure that out. And I love that. I love that reframe of let's figure out the strategy for you. And then you make the decision, stay or go, right? Because you might come to the point where you're like, there is no strategy that can work for that
Right. And the
person.
strategy is I'm just going to do what I think they want me to do. Well, fine, but you're being needed. First of all, everyone's not needed. Everyone's is dispensable. I hate to say it, but we think if we keep like
Yeah.
being needed, they're going to want us, and we don't have to prove that. And again, I said, so many of my clients are high achievers. They want to be performance drivers. They are, but they're distracted from being value creators, which is how I want my clients to be known. Is how I want to be known. That's what I'm proud of at the end of the day.
All right.
People remember. They won't remember what you've done for them. They remember how you made them feel.
Absolutely.
And that's
Right.
what matters. So when you feel it and you're leading with that passion, that's an amazing thing.
And I think it also speaks to women's superpower, right? We have a natural capability to do that, to be more in tune with people, to understand how people work. And like I would argue that would be the reason more women should be in corporations, right? Corporations have taken because they're bad players, right? And they've certainly gotten that press. You would think, like, I don't get it, why we wouldn't embrace more women coming in and bringing more humanity back to corporations.
Well, that's the revolution you and I have to lead, which is women need to be taking over and running the world.
I'm
I think
100% with you, girl.
it's right. Like I think there's a perspective there that really matters. And, we're discouraged in business from like, oh, you're too sensitive, you're emotional. Change happens from what you feel, not what you think. Neurologically,
Right.
like thinking it happens after. And people, women are like, oh, I don't want to feel what I feel. That's your like superpower is that we're more in touch with our feelings. We can use that as information that then it makes us more effective, more strategic. So
Right.
everyone who's doing New Year's resolutions, intention alone doesn't cut it. You have to be tied to what you want to feel about yourself and making that change and let the feeling of that motivate that change. That's
Um,
what drives effectiveness.
right? Yeah, have a picture of what that next iteration of you, because I think life is we just keep iterating, right?
That's all
And
it is.
moving, yep. But what is the next iteration of what you're becoming? And how do you get there?
And I think that's what comes first is why am I giving myself to this corporate job versus what do I want to take from it that's going to get me to my next thing?
Right.
right? I
Right.
want every woman to know that you are the queen on the chessboard. You can move in any direction. You're the most powerful player as long as you keep that invisible crown on your head.
Right. Right.
That's what I care about.
Yeah. And that is a great visual. And I'm guessing that's where the hang up comes, right? Because the crown slips and now we're trying to push it back. It kind of goes to the other side. And it's always this, we always feel caught and not that stable situation where I can always keep my crown on, which is where your coaching comes in.
That's right. And that's exactly part of the down the rabbit hole, lead through normalized nonsense without losing you masterclass that I'm doing, which is all experienced through the lens of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. There's a lot to learn from Alice's adventure. And so we use that in this masterclass to center in your own certainty so that you have that as the guide. You're not making decisions from what you assume others want. You're saying, this is what I know about me.
Right.
Because when you are really clear about who you are, now the next stage is matterful leadership, what I call matterful leadership, where you're using what matters to you to then drive that certainty forward in ways that differentiate you, in ways that you're proud of.
Right.
And that's my clients are making those changes in the world for themselves that, and I call it, you're making a difference from your difference. And that feels really good.
And then creating the ripple, because we know,
Exactly.
as we mentioned earlier, people look to you to be the leader and model and that kind of thing. So give us a little bit of background because I love down the rabbit hole. I'm a big rabbit hole person. How you came up with that structure or kind of what that means to you.
Well, so I love Alice. It's very personally meaningful to me in a lot of ways, and it's also really in tune with the neuroscience. Because if you think about it, what does Alice do? She follows what seems urgent and important because the white rabbit is rushing. So she's not guided by her own what matters. She's following just because it seems important. And so she assumes it's also important. And then she ends up in Wonderland because she doesn't actually know herself. And that entire journey, she's challenged by the characters. Who are you? Says the caterpillar, right? What are you? Says the Mad Hatter. And when she asks for directions, the Cheshire Cat says, what do you care about? And she's like, I don't really care about anything. He's like, well, then any direction will get you there as long as you walk hard enough. That's the effort part. That says, like, fine, go spend a lot of effort. But if you know what you care about, that gives you almost that straight line. And at the end, at least in the book, they took this out in the movie, but in the book at least, she defines who she is by naming who they are. No one cares for you. You're nothing but a pack of cards. This is who you are. And by knowing who they are, she knows who she is. And sometimes we have to define ourselves by pushing against. Like let's figure out what we don't want. And so it fits and it's also fun. I don't want to do things that aren't fun.
I agree.
Right?
Totally. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Let's throw that off the table.
Right. I mean, if it's not fun, and this is a model for really standing in your own certainty because the whole world is uncertain. We
For
we
sure.
do not know. And that is a fear threat response trigger. And so what we can always know is as ourselves. We can always be grounded in that. And I think that's where women, when we know what that is, we can negotiate from that place. We can navigate from that place. Everything becomes more clear. And, I'm just a grateful witness on my clients' journey in the things that they're, publishing books and like I said, doing TED Talks and climbing mountains. And it's just amazing to see their evolution and be a part of that. And also, offering the best practices, the things that they don't have to recreate the wheel in a lot of ways. There's things that we just want to build on what their unique talents are and make money from it.
Right. Yeah.
Women need to make money.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Because money leads to freedom and it also leads to the ability to change other systems and impact. Right. So, yeah, 100%. Gosh, like I even hate to wrap up this conversation. So much more we could talk about, but I do know you have a free consultation, and then you gave us a little snippet. But you will also people get a 50% discount. And we'll put the code and the link for Laura's masterclass. Like it sounds fabulous. I'm gonna have to go back and read Alice in Wonderland. Now you give me a whole new perspective because I'm sure I read it as a kid, right? And now I'm gonna go read it. But yeah, if you want to share any more about that consultation, your
Yeah. So I offer a free 60-minute consultation for anyone to talk through where they are and where they want to be, because I know I'm not the coach for everyone. I'm not going to pretend to be. I want to offer value around what that is for them, but also potentially give them a better resource. If it's me, great. If it's not, I want women to find that fulfillment and that power. So I want to have that conversation just to say, hey, what's going on? How can I be of service to you? And so I've always done that. I've been doing this for like 12 years. And the Down the Rabbit Hole masterclass, I mean, it's not a huge cost because I want women to have these tools, but it is over 2 days, an hour and a half on each day. And then there's like a 20-minute video that you watch in between with the science, but it's all experiential. So it's not lecture.
Right.
We're
Right.
actually having fun with it. Every major character in Alice has its own neural pattern. And you meet these people, you know the Mad Hatter, you've met the Queen of Hearts, you know these people in your life.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's who do we choose to be in relationship with all these other different types of people? We get to choose that relationship based on
Right.
who we are.
Yeah.
So I'm having a huge amount of fun with it.
I love it, and I love the whole idea behind it, and you're right, there's when you start to see patterns or people's behavior. I'm a huge human design advocate too, and I'm always thinking as I'm meeting people, what's their human design and how is that impacting how we interact, right? And how they're interacting with the world.
Absolutely. And part of the second day, when we talk about matterful leadership, if the first day is centered certainty, like knowing yourself actually disrupts your pattern, but then getting into what you actually care about, I give real, like these are pattern disruptor tools. Because if you don't like something, disrupt the pattern, right? You can't keep doing the same old thing. Einstein, that's the path to insanity. You have to show up differently. And we can do that safely when it matters to us. If it doesn't matter, we'll feel vulnerable. We'll be in a threat response. So I want men to know that this is a path that is available because I never knew it was.
And I think that's sometimes the problem, right? We don't know where to go for what we think we need. And sometimes it's not what we need, but sometimes we got to go down that rabbit hole to find what we need.
That's right, because we're going to learn something regardless when we're there. And that's something really important. When she's falling down the rabbit hole, she's not afraid.
I was going to say, I remember curiosity being her, right? Like, I'm going to follow this, yeah, out of urgency, but also because I'm curious.
And what I love is here she is, eat me, drink me, changing herself to fit, which is what women do. We try to change ourselves in our environment. She's trying to get through that tiny little door with the key. And in the end, she never actually gets through any of the doors. Her tears, crying about it, literally carried her into the next chapter. So it was her in touch with her own emotions that actually moved her forward, not because someone gave her a door and told her
Right.
she has to change herself.
Right. To
It's being
fit in the
authentic.
door.
It's
Yep.
what got her there at the end of the day.
Right.
And she never doubts herself.
And there is a boom, right? That doubting. And why are you doubting? And then how do we switch that doubt to belief?
And not just belief, but self-trust. At the end of
Yep.
the day, I'm creating a method. I have a method for women to develop self-trust, right? Because we are gaslighted in every part of our lives as far as I'm concerned. And this is like, if I can trust myself, I can handle anything that gets thrown at me.
Exactly.
And that's what's important because we'll learn in that place. That's evolution. And I'm publishing an article this week on LinkedIn about the top 10 lessons Alice is giving us. And I'll
Oh, cool.
put that on the landing page for the masterclass too.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, we'll look forward to that. Well, this
Thank
has
you.
been so delightful. We could go on. You're going to have to come back on the show at some point. And yeah, it's
Love it.
just fun, right? And I think so many gold nuggets, but really I'm going to pick up that very last one is self-trust. And so important that we cultivate it because I do believe if women were driving the bus, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in now. Just saying. So I really feel we need to empower ourselves and empower other women to change the trajectory of where we're headed.
Absolutely. I hear you, sister. I'm 1,000% behind you. You'll lead the charge.
That's right. All right. Well, be sure and subscribe because you don't want to miss the charge that we're headed up here. And we're going to bring you more powerful stories from women who are really using their passions, their love of helping people to create an impact in the world.